Sorry, Dodgers fans. I know that one must have stung as the D-backs walk it off on a 2-run home run by Christian Walker in extra innings.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com to see all of my latest work. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code, all lowercase, Locked On MLB for first deposit match up to $100. On today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we'll be talking about that fantastic D-backs walk-off win against the Dodgers. We'll preview Zac Gallen versus Yamamoto, and I'll give my thoughts on this new D-backs lineup that Torey Lovullo has been running out there. But before we get into that, first I want to say thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube, so please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. We're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the All-Star break, so please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. But now, let's get into the podcast, and let's talk about that D-backs walk-off against the LA Dodgers. Sorry, Dodgers fans. I'm sure it was a long night for you guys because this game started off so weird. A 2-hour B delay. How often do you see that? MVP of the game are two dudes. One is Christian Walker because he had 2 home runs in the walk-off. The other is the beekeeper who came down, got on the scissor lift, and took that beehive away from the stadium. I don't know what you do. I don't know if you euthanize the bees or if you release them to the wild. I don't know what the protocol for bees is, but shout out to the beekeeper throughout the first pitch of the game. D-backs, because of the 2-hour delay, they end up not starting Jordan Montgomery. They say, you know what? You've been sitting for a long time. You know what? Just take this day off. We'll let our new call-up make his season debut on short notice, Brandon Hughes, and let's give him a round of applause because to get the call-up the day of and then all of a sudden right before the game starts, so there's a little delay, and they say, you know what, kid? You're now making your debut for the D-backs this season on such short notice, and he stepped up. D-backs had to go bullpen game in this one, and they did a fantastic job against the LA Dodgers offense. Brandon Hughes, he went 1 inning, no earned runs, 2 strikeouts. Bryce Jarvis looked really strong over 3 innings, 4 Ks. Justin Martinez, he struggled a little bit. He's someone that I've wanted to see more of this season because he has been really good so far for the D-backs. Again, command is always an issue for him, and that came up in this game as he allowed a hit and 2 walks. Joe Mantiply came in, bases loaded. He ran into some trouble caused by his own, undoings because he had a wild pitch that scored a run with the bases loaded. And then he gets Ohtani and Freddie Freeman out in back-to-back at-bats after that. I don't know how Joe Mantiply did that. I thought it was going to be a Joe Multiply situation, but somehow he only gave up 1 earned run in that situation. Ryan Thompson looked fantastic. 2 innings, no earned runs. Great job by Kevin Ginkel in the 9th. Then Scott McGough did make us sweat, right? He loaded up the bases. He had 2 walks allowed, but only gave up the sacrifice fly to Will Smith, which was not enough. Only gave the Dodgers a 1-run lead because Christian Walker in the bottom of the 10th sent one to the absolute moon, 109.3 miles per hour off the bat. That's the exit velo, 426 feet. It would have been a home run in all 30 ballparks. And the one he had earlier in the game, 104.5 miles per hour off the bat, 412 feet, also a home run in all 30 ballparks. Big night for Christian Walker, who was 3 for 5, 3 RBIs, 2 home runs, and 2 runs scored. Absolutely monster performance by Christian Walker to come through in the clutch. Great job by the Dbacks pen to slow down this vaunted Dodgers offense who has been crushing it all season long. They crushed us in game 1 of the series, right? No strikeouts for the Dodgers in game 1. Not the case in game number 2, as the Dodgers, struck out 9 times to only 6 walks drawn and only 5 hits. So the D-backs had more strikeouts than walks and hits allowed in this game. And you look at the top of the lineup for the Dodgers, 0 for 3 for Betts, 1 for 5 by Ohtani with 3 strikeouts, 2 strikeouts for Betts, 1 for 4 for Freeman with a K, 1 for 3 for Will Smith. Like, you did a great job of limiting the top of the Dodgers lineup, which is never going to be easy to do. But the D-backs, via a bullpen game, if you could believe that, because we've talked about how the starting pitching has been really strong for the D-backs the last couple of weeks, and it's been the bullpen that's been a big issue. Not tonight. Bullpen stepped up in a big way. Now, was the offense there? Did the offense step up in a big way? Outside of Christian Walker? Not really. We did have a clutch hit by Gabriel Moreno late in the game. Bottom of the 8th, 2 outs. Gabriel Moreno delivers a big knock with runners in scoring position. The first knock of the night with runners in scoring position. Absolutely clutch by him. Then after that, Corbin Carroll comes up to the plate and smokes one into the right field corner. I don't know why Gabriel Moreno didn't score on that play. I thought that was easily a Corbin Carroll RBI double to put the D-backs ahead. I was going crazy off the bat because I thought that was going to be a huge confidence boost for Corbin Carroll when he saw Gabriel Moreno cross home plate. It should still be a huge confidence boost for Carroll. I think that was maybe his clutchest hit of the season, but just don't understand why he didn't get the ribby in that situation, unless Moreno wasn't running hard enough or was gimpy or something. With Moreno's speed, and if he's fully healthy, there's no reason he shouldn't have scored from first on that play from Corbin Carroll. So I don't know what was going on there. I don't know what the third base coach was saying in that situation, but regardless, the D-backs should have scored in that situation. So on the night, D-backs, after a 2-hour B delay, Jordan Montgomery gets scratched. You have to throw out a guy who has yet to make his season debut for the D-backs on short notice. He pitches well. The rest of this struggling bullpen pitches well. The D-backs, we know late game offense has been their biggest weakness this season. Not in this game. Clutch hit by Moreno in the 8th. 2-run home run by Christian Walker in the 10th. D-backs walk it off and take game 2 from the LA Dodgers. And now we'll talk about Zac Gallen versus Yamamoto in segment number 2. But first, I want to talk to you guys about my favorite game on the iPhone right now. It's called Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift up your head, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play Store. Now I want to talk to you guys about my favorite fantasy sports app called Prize Picks because spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entries today. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. My favorite thing to do on Prize Picks is to take Corbin Carroll over on total bases. That hasn't been hitting a lot. Also, give me Corbin Carroll over on RBIs. That doesn't typically hit a lot. But when those two do hit and I see money in my account, I'm a very happy guy. If you want to be a happy guy or gal, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app, code LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. Let's get back into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. If you like the show, please follow me on Twitter at CareerTimes24 for the personal account, or look up Locked on Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. But now let's get back into the podcast and let's talk a little Zac Gallen versus Yamamoto because this is a huge matchup. First look at Yamamoto this season for the Dbacks, and Zac Gallen supposedly back on the mound, left his last start with some cramp issues in his leg. The ace of this Dbacks team with Erod down, Merrill Kelly down, Ryan Nelson down, Monty's back, but the rotation has been battered, it's been bruised, and if the Dbacks lost Zac Gallen too, it would get very dark very quickly for this rotation and the rest of this season moving forward. So glad to see Zac Gallen back, but what level of Zac Gallen will we see? Is he just 100% healthy and he just needed like a banana after his last start? I'm hoping that's the case because the D-backs really need Zac Gallen right now. You already took one game in this series, and for the D-backs, who we've said need to keep pace in the NL West, need to continue to tread water as this team tries to get healthy. You need to win games like the one against the LA Dodgers in the series finale. And with your best pitcher on the mound going against arguably the Dodgers' best pitcher, like this is what you're supposed to do if you're Zac Gallen. This is what you're expected to do when you get the title of the ace. Step up in the biggest games against the biggest opponents, going against the best players. You're facing a NL West rival, one of the best offenses in Major League Baseball in the Dodgers. You're going against a rookie pitcher in Yamamoto who looks like a veteran because, of course, he is a veteran coming over from the Japanese league where he absolutely dominated. He looks like he's going to dominate on the major league level, and some numbers tell you he's already doing that. So for Zac Gallen, he's got a lot to go against an elite team. He has to go against an elite pitcher, and the D-backs desperately need him to step up because as much fun as it was to have that walk-off in game number 2, the D-backs are still 14-17 on the season, and they're going to need their ace to pitch like an ace in this series finale. If we get bad Zac Gallen, it will be demoralizing, and it won't even feel like we won game number 2 in this series because if Zac Gallen has a bad start against the Dodgers, I probably won't remember the walk-off from Christian Walker. And it's not like run support is guaranteed for a Zac Gallen in this game. That's why we're going to need him more than ever. Yes, you're facing the Dodgers. Yes, you're facing Yamamoto, but this D-backs offense is also in a slump right now. Your back is against the wall, Zac Gallen. You got the opponent in front of you, and you got your team behind you that's not really doing too much at the plate. There's a lot of pressure on your shoulders right now if you're Zac Gallen, and especially after game 2 where the D-backs had to throw out like all their relievers, had to do a bullpen game. Like, think about the pressure now on Zac Gallen with the standings, with the team he's facing, with knowing his team is in a slump, knowing the bullpen is already overworked. We're going to need at least 7 probably from Zac Gallen, and that's asking a lot from a pitcher who's going against one of the best offenses in Major League Baseball. But guess what? Heavy is the head right? That wears the crown. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, and that's Zac Gallen. When you get the title, the ace, you are the crown wearer. And so for Gallen, we're going to need an elite start from him in the finale against the Dodgers. Last season against the Dodgers, Zac Gallen did not step up. 11 earned runs in just 2 starts, 10 innings pitched. Very, very bad stuff against the Dodgers last season. And what's so surprising when you look at Dodgers players with at least 10 at bats against Zac Gallen, so like the Freddies, the Mookies of the world, like Gallen has actually performed really well against the best players in the Dodgers lineup. The one guy, of course, that has had success against Zac Gallen is the man who has more success against the D-backs than any other player in the Dodgers lineup, Will Smith. He's 6 for 19 with 3 ribbies against Zac Gallen. That is not surprising at all. I fully expect Will Smith to hit a double and potentially a home run in the series finale because that is what he do. Over a 300 average and almost 1,000 OPS in his career against the D-backs. Will Smith loves playing against Arizona. And then from the D-backs perspective, first time we get to see Yamamoto this season. I'm actually super excited because I want to see what this phenom can do. Obviously, I want the D-backs to crush him, but I want to see those pitches, right? This is someone that came over and expected to be maybe the best Japanese pitcher of all time. His first start wasn't the best against the Padres, but he's really started to pick it up since then. He's a strikeout machine. And for this D-backs offense, who's like 4 for the last 40 or something, or runners in scoring position, like they need to get it going against Yamamoto and would love to see a welcome to the league moment against the rookie. And it would be cool if Corbin Carroll could do it, who now has hits in back-to-back games. Is Corbin Carroll heating up? Maybe Corbin Carroll should be bumped back up to the number 2 spot. That's probably a little crazy, but I do actually want to give my thoughts on the D-backs new lineup that they've been throwing out in segment number 3. Now I want to talk to you guys about my favorite app that I use to deliver food right to my crib. I'm sure you guys have used it or heard about it before. It's called DoorDash. And let me ask you guys a little question. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast? Is she a beauty connoisseur? Or is she outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, and more this Mother's Day via DoorDash because they can deliver from pretty much any place as long as it's on their app. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. Get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONMLB. That's code LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Let's discuss this new D-backs lineup that they've been throwing out and give some thoughts on it because recently we've seen lineups where it's either Blaze or Jake McCarthy batting leadoff, depending on the pitcher. Then you have Gurriel batting number 2, Marte batting number 3, and then it's been Corbin Carroll around that number 7 spot, which is a little bit of a switch up for the D-backs. Usually it's Corbin Carroll batting in that number 2 spot behind Ketel Marte, but with Carroll struggling so mightily, he's been bumped in the rotation, bumped in the lineup, bring up guys like Jake McCarthy and Blaze Alexander who've been swinging the bat pretty well. Then you put Marte in that 3rd spot to create some more RBI opportunities for himself. So let's actually talk about this new lineup construction. And I want to give you my thoughts on how I feel about it because I do respect Torey Lovullo trying to shake up the lineup. And I do think it's smart to shake up the lineup because the offense just hasn't been working the last couple of weeks. And you can't just keep throwing out the same thing every day and expecting something different. I respect the gamble that he took with Corbin Carroll and dropping him in the lineup because I do think that takes some, cojones. And Corbin Carroll coming off the Rookie of the Year, I'm sure he's not happy about it, but he also knows he's struggling. He knows he has to get his swing back in order. So I think he accepts that's the best for himself and for the team. And we're just all hoping Corbin Carroll can get it back together because his swing looks broken right now. And I'm praying that hit he had in the 8th inning could get him going just a little bit. But I will say with Corbin Carroll batting 7th, I like the construction of either Jake McCarthy or Blaze Alexander batting leadoff, depending on the pitcher, because Jake McCarthy, I think, has swung his bat just fine this season, been a good contact hitter, never going to have a ton of power or slug, but as long as he can hit singles and low gap doubles, that's all we need. And we know his speed is a weapon. We know his speed kills. In back-to-back seasons, under 100 games played, and still over 20 stolen bases, Jake McCarthy's speed is a weapon. And then Blaze Alexander just continues to be arguably the best D-backs hitter, right there with Ketel Marte or really anybody else. Jock Peterson, like he was 0 for 1 today, but Blaze still in the season, 311, 400, 541 slash line, like absolutely massive. That's why he just has to continue to play every single day. Like, I don't understand what Torey Lovullo was doing or what he continues to do when he just sits Blaze Alexander for no reason. Like, I wouldn't say it's completely no reason. He does it because of Blaze Alexander's either defense or there's a right-handed pitcher on the mound. But if you're going to sit Blaze Alexander against a righty and because of his defense and start Kevin Newman, then don't bring in Blaze Alexander in like the 9th inning for defense because he's not good in that situation. And you might as well just keep Kevin Newman out there once the 9th inning rolls around, because like we saw in the 10th inning, Blaze Alexander struggled on that transfer throw to get a double play ball in that 10th inning. And in that situation, it should probably just be Kevin Newman. Like, what Torey Lovullo needs to do is just start Blaze Alexander, who's the best offensive player at his position on the team. And if you do start him, maybe we don't even go to extra innings because of the offensive production that Blaze Alexander can do. And guess what? If we still go to extra innings, then just do the defensive replacement later after you already got 8-9 innings out of Blaze. If you're still going to extra innings, then bring Kevin Newman in off the bench after that. I don't understand sitting one of your 3 best offensive players for a guy who can't hit right now and calling it a defensive substitution or just a platoon substitution, and then bring in Blaze Alexander a few innings later as a defensive replacement. I just think that's backwards logic by Torey Lovullo there. Start Blaze and then bring in Newman off the bench. Don't do vice versa, because I just think that makes absolutely no sense. So just my 2 cents on that. Plays Blaze Alexander. Just play Blaze every single day. He's been way too hot not to. So like I was saying, love the fact that Blaze is in line to potentially bat leadoff now when there's a lefty on the mound. Obviously, both Blaze Alexander and Jake McCarthy are both faster than Ketel Marte, so I understand them batting leadoff over Marte. But I think I would at least like Marte still in that number 2 hole. I just don't think it makes sense for Marte to be in the number 3 and then Gurriel to be in the number 2. I get it. You want to get Ketel Marte more RBI opportunities. But for some reason, when you look at the splits for Marte in his career, he just has not been a good number 3 hitter in his career. I just don't know why. When he's batting first or second in the lineup, his OPS is like 850 basically. But when he's batting third, it drops by like 100 points down to 750, and I don't know why. And he has at least 400 plate appearances batting first, second, and third in a lineup. So the sample size is there. It's a large sample size. He hits way better batting first or second. So if you are going to drop Ketel Marte and try to give him more RBI opportunities, I think I would just drop him to number 2 in the lineup and then have Jake or Blaze Alexander as your leadoff hitter going forward. For Gurriel, though, maybe we think about treating him more like a platoon guy going forward. I'm not saying he has to be on the bench the days there's a righty on the mound, but the days there's a righty on the mound, maybe he bats 6th, maybe he bats 7th in the lineup, because for Gurriel, 340 average, 930 OPS against lefties this season. That was before tonight's game. But against righties, 219 average and a 648 OPS. So night and day against righties and lefties. Has crushed left-handed pitching, has struggled against right-handed pitching, which is not a surprise for a lot of players. And Gurriel also right now is just struggling. He's like 4 for his last 27 at the plate. Just not good Gurriel right now. So if I had to do the lineup, if there's a lefty on the mound, I would go Blaze, Marte, Gurriel as my top 3. And then if there's a righty on the mound, I would go Jake, Marte, and then probably Jock Peterson as my number 3, and then put Lourdes Gurriel as like your number 6 hitter, your number 5 hitter, whatever you want to do going forward. But he probably should be a little bit lower in the lineup when there's a right-handed pitcher on the mound, and maybe put Jock as your number 3 hitter because he's been so good as a hitter for the D-backs this year. Really been a godsend. Coming up from free agency this year, really like the way Jock Peterson has looked with his plate discipline this year. And speaking of plate discipline, maybe Corbin Carroll, who has been struggling this season, maybe we give him the Perdomo treatment, make him like the number 9 hitter. Carroll's still someone that is drawing a ton of walks. Maybe he becomes a number 9 hitter and becomes Perdomo. And then it's like you reset the lineup with Corbin Carroll as your number 9 hitter. I don't think the D-backs are going to do that, but just wanted to throw that out there as maybe an idea. The idea of Corbin Carroll batting 9th sounds crazy, but if you view it as that Geraldo Perdomo mode, maybe it doesn't sound as bad. I also think Randall Grichuk needs to bat maybe a little bit higher in the lineup. He's been playing really well recently. He swung a really good bat recently. I just trust him at the plate. I like the pitches he swings at. I think he has great plate discipline. I think all his at-bats are in real good control. I don't think he swings at anything crazy or out the strike zone. I don't ever see him chasing. He always seems composed and just puts together professional at-bats at the plate. So I wouldn't mind Grichuk, who is also swinging the bat pretty well, to bat a little bit higher in the lineup as well. Most importantly, though, for this D-backs lineup, that Torey Lovullo has to remember, because I think he makes a lot of questionable decision making when it comes to the lineup. But the one thing he has to remember is just play your best guys, Torey. It's a thing I've talked to him about and said on this podcast the last few years. It's a problem he's had at times because he's addicted to the platoon situations and stuff like that. Just play your best guys, Torey. I don't care if there's a righty on the mound. Just start Blaze Alexander. The more you play your best guys, the better the D-backs have at winning, a better chance at winning, that is. So, Torey, I respect throwing out new lineups. I respect dropping Corbin Carroll on the lineup. I like all that, but just remember to always play your best players. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. Hopefully the D-backs win, and we'll be talking about it if they do. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.